glistens like oil beads. On its slick smooth trunk that trailed behind on cracks and thumps.
Captain Beefheart was the stage name of an American singer and multi-instrumentalist whose birth name was Don Glenn Vliet. He was the leader of the Magic Band, which was a band that had quite a bit of turnover of different members. And he's well known for being a friend and sometime rival of Frank Zappa's. He started his musical career in 1964. He produced an incredibly well thought of album called Trout Mask Replica, and several other albums, of course. He retired from music in 1982 and became a painter, and became financially more successful as a painter. He died in 2010.
Hi, my name's Dan, and this is a review of the album Shiny Beast, brackets, Back Chain Puller, close bracket, by Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band, released in 1978 and was his 10th studio album, and it's my first time listening to it. So it's really not that long since I reviewed Doc at the Radar Station, which was his next album released after this one. That got a stupendous score from me of 7.2. What am I going to give this one? Well, either wait till the end or go look at the details below and you'll find out. Yeah, I'm trying to tease you here, but it's not a hugely successful tease, is it? This album has a bit of an unusual origin that involves Frank Zappa, so let's deal with this first. In 1976, that was 2 years before this album was released, Captain Beefheart recorded an album called Back Chain Puller. And it turned out that the co-founder of Discreet Records, a guy called Herb Cohen, used the royalty checks from his other co-founder, who was Frank Zappa, to fund the recording of the album. When Frank found out, he confiscated the master tapes for this album, and they were not released back to anybody until after Captain Beefheart's death. In the legal battle that ensued, Captain Beefheart went back into the studio, reworked some of the tracks, re-recorded some things that had been outtakes from previous albums, and generally cobbled together an album. And this was that album. That other album with the master tapes, Back Chain Puller, did get released later. And in fact, the first listen that I had is I wanted to check that I hadn't listened to the wrong album at one point. I thought maybe I had done, but no, I have. I didn't listen to I listened to this one, not that one. But experimental rock might be the safest genre holding of this, and it's Captain Beefheart. And probably the safest way of genre holding any Captain Beefheart, I would say. The musical backing is kind of awkward, angular Americana, generally quite spiky in nature and gritty in feel, unlike other stuff with the Magic Band. Generally, on this album, they're all playing in the same key. This seems like a basic kind of thing that you might require, but actually it's not the case with several other of their albums that I've heard. So this is them being more accessible, I would say. And as such, I think it potentially makes a better introduction to Captain Beefheart to people who are not used to him than some of the other albums. It does mean, though, that in some ways dilutes the sheer Captain Beefheartness of it. And in fact, one song, Harry Irene, sticks out from the others in that it's actually basically vocal jazz, and you could actually define what it is somewhat, and it's sung. So singing, most of the singing isn't singing, it's gravelly speech, occasionally near a relevant note. And when I reviewed the last album this is. I noted a similarity to Tom Waits. I noted that again this time. It's kind of gruff and gritty. There is one song, as I say, Harry Hareen, which sticks out from the others because it is sung. It really does stick out from the others on the album. And the other one that's kind of, I was going to say unusual for the album, the whole thing's somewhat unusual, is the last track, which is Ape Smar, which is a short spoken word thing at the end. The lyrical content is surreal and critically whimsical. This, I'd say, is an aspect of something that I'm starting to enjoy in Captain Beefheart. Possibly the most bizarre pictures on this album are in the track Back Chain Puller. The rest, possibly again, maybe a little bit more accessible than some of his other albums that I've come across. So, as an album, I didn't feel like it was, from the origins of this album, you might think it would feel like it's been cobbled together. It doesn't feel like that any more than any of his other albums that I've heard. It just has this general studied awkwardness to it. Then coming down to the final question, always it has to come to in the review, did I enjoy it? And the answer was mildly. I felt like it wasn't as bonkers as some others, and I'm sorry I'm doing comparisons to others of his albums. I'm sorry if you're not aware of any of his others, then that doesn't help you. But I can say that if you were to try, if you're from the, if you've not done Captain Beefheart and you wanted to try some, this might be one of the easier albums to try because it is less challenging as a listen. So that's what I think of this album. As always, I'd love to know what you think. So please really let me know by leaving me a comment. But that's it from me for now.
Harry Irene were a couple that lived in the green. Harry Irene were a couple that ran a canteen. Ran a canteen.